Let's set the stage. Germany, 1930s. The country was rebuilding after the chaos of World War I, and the Nazi regime was tightening its grip. Amid this backdrop of rising authoritarianism, one car rolled onto the scene. Massive, menacing, and meticulously engineered. The Mercedes-Benz 770, also known as the Großer Mercedes, wasn't just another luxury vehicle. It was built with a very specific purpose: to carry the most powerful and feared man in Europe. But this wasn't your average state car. We're talking about a beast that weighed over 4 tons, stretched more than 6 meters in length, and had engineering that was ahead of its time. Some versions were equipped with armored plating, bulletproof glass, and a massive 7.7-liter inline-8 engine that could push the car to 100 kilometers per hour despite its weight. And here's the thing, it wasn't just built for performance, it was built to send a message. This wasn't transportation, this was intimidation on wheels. In a regime that thrived on grand displays and psychological warfare, appearances were everything. Every public event was a performance, and the 770 was a prop designed for maximum dramatic effect. Picture this, a slow, thunderous entrance into a crowded stadium, massive tires rolling over cobblestone streets, a black, polished surface gleaming under the sun, soldiers lining the route, and Hitler standing upright, saluting from the open back of the car. It was a carefully calculated scene meant to create awe and fear. Why did it work so well? Because the car looked untouchable, and by extension, so did its passenger. It symbolized dominance, both mechanical and political. No other world leader at the time was parading around in a vehicle that looked like it had just rolled off a movie set about world domination. But it wasn't all just spectacle. Behind the chrome grille was a piece of German engineering brilliance. Hydraulic brakes, a reinforced chassis, and a suspension system that could handle the weight of armor without sacrificing smoothness. It was a weaponized limousine, and everyone who saw it knew it. Now, let's talk about the people who built it. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Mercedes-Benz, one of the most iconic automotive brands in the world, played a major role in designing and supplying these cars. Their engineers weren't just building luxury, they were building prestige for a dictatorship. It's important to understand that Mercedes didn't create the 770 solely for Hitler. The first generation appeared in the late 1920s for royalty and wealthy elites. But when the Nazis came to power, they commissioned a new generation, specifically tailored to their needs. This wasn't accidental, it was strategic. Mercedes engineers worked closely with Nazi officials to make sure the car delivered on both looks and logistics. From the rear-mounted handholds that allowed guards to hang onto the vehicle during parades, to the custom armor, and even the manual override mechanisms that ensured the car could function in extreme situations. This was a joint effort. Today, Mercedes has acknowledged this dark chapter in its history, and while the brand has long since moved on, the 770 remains a controversial reminder of how industry and ideology once collided. While Hitler is the name most commonly associated with the Mercedes 770, he wasn't the only one who rode in this steel colossus. In fact, the 770 became the go-to car for authoritarian leaders of the era. Benito Mussolini? He had one. General Franco of Spain? He used one too. Even Japan's Emperor Hirohito was reportedly chauffeured in a version of this car. Why? Because if you were trying to make a statement of absolute power, nothing said "I'm untouchable" like showing up in a 4-ton armored German machine built to military-grade specs. It became a status symbol for the world's most powerful and most feared individuals, and that reputation would stick to the car like a shadow. What's even more ironic is that the 770 wasn't just a tool of intimidation. It was also used diplomatically. Foreign dignitaries visiting Nazi Germany were sometimes offered a ride in the 770. It was a way to impress and subtly remind them who they were dealing with. In many ways, the 770 Großer wasn't just a car. It was a political instrument on wheels. So what happened to these cars after the fall of Nazi Germany? Most were destroyed in the chaos of war. Some were captured by Allied forces and studied, and a few simply vanished. But the story doesn't end there. Several Mercedes 770s have resurfaced decades later in private collections, auctions, and museums. One of the most famous surviving models is believed to have belonged directly to Hitler and was recovered by American troops at the end of World War II. That car was later displayed in military museums and even featured in historical documentaries. But with that exposure came controversy. Many historians and critics argued that showcasing the car too prominently risks glorifying the regime it was part of. Others argue that keeping it in the public eye is vital for remembering the past and learning from it. In 2018, one of the 700s was even offered at auction in the United States for over $7 million, sparking outrage and heated debates about whether such artifacts should be bought and sold at all. These aren't just collector's items, they're artifacts soaked in meaning, symbols of a dark era preserved in steel and chrome. Let's get back under the hood, because the Mercedes 770 wasn't just famous because of who used it. It was famous because it was genuinely incredible engineering for its time. Underneath that massive body was a 7.7-liter straight-8 engine, supercharged in later models to deliver up to 230 horsepower. Now, that might not sound insane today, but remember, this was the 1930s, and the car weighed over 4,000 kilograms. To move that mass at highway speeds with reliability was a serious engineering challenge. Yet Mercedes pulled it off. It featured a double wishbone front suspension, a 4-speed manual transmission, and brakes powerful enough to bring this monster to a stop repeatedly and reliably. Later Type B models even came with bulletproof glass up to 3 inches thick, and tires that could self-seal after being punctured. A truly futuristic feature at the time. In many ways, the 770 was the Rolls-Royce Phantom meets military tank of its era. It blurred the line between a luxury sedan and an armored vehicle. And it did it all while maintaining that iconic Mercedes design language. Elegant, yet imposing. Decades have passed, but the Mercedes 770 continues to provoke debate. Is it just a piece of automotive history? Or something more dangerous? A relic too tainted by its past? Some see it as a technical masterpiece, an example of what German engineering could achieve under extreme constraints. Others see it as a rolling reminder of dictatorship and terror, a machine too closely tied to tyranny to be admired in any way. Even Mercedes-Benz itself has walked a delicate line when acknowledging the 770. The company has publicly recognized its historical role, but doesn't actively promote or celebrate this model. And you won't see the 770 on showroom posters or corporate anniversary reels. What makes this car so controversial is that it isn't just metal and rubber. It's symbolism in motion. When you look at a Mercedes 770 today, you don't just see a vehicle. You see a period in history where style, technology, and authoritarianism collided. It forces us to ask, can something be both brilliant and horrifying at the same time? The few surviving 700s live in a strange kind of limbo. They're locked away in private collections, occasionally displayed in museums. And when they surface in auctions, they spark outrage and fascination in equal measure. There's always a tension. Should these vehicles be hidden from view to prevent glamorizing a terrible past? Or should they be displayed with context as educational tools? Many historians lean toward the latter. They argue that confronting history, even its darkest parts, is vital, that shielding people from these symbols doesn't erase what they meant. And there's something powerful in that. In seeing the actual machine that once carried dictators down wide boulevards, and standing next to it and realizing that even the most powerful symbols of oppression eventually end up parked, rusting, silent, empty. The Mercedes 770 is many things: a technological marvel, a political tool, a symbol of fear, a museum piece. It's not celebrated, it's not admired, but it's remembered, and maybe that's the most important part. Because in a world full of forgotten relics and sanitized history, the 770 still stands as a brutal, elegant, and chilling reminder of what happens when innovation is used for the wrong reasons. Not every great machine deserves applause, but some deserve to be remembered. Thanks for watching this deep dive into one of the most controversial cars ever built. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Do you think the 770 should be preserved or erased from memory? We'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video.